All right, we are going here, episode 15 of Face in the Crowd.
Welcome back, guys. We skipped a week, but we're back now.
Yeah, why did we skip last week? You were busy or something, right?
The,
And then I
the
just
Wi-Fi at college was broken, so I could literally do like nothing.
yeah, that's right. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah,
Of course, the school Wi-Fi is being an issue.
I mean, first world problems, but
Right.
still impossible to do a podcast with that.
Yeah. Anyway, so this week we don't have a ton to talk about. We're mostly just a lot of like entertainment stuff. So first we want to discuss episodes 7 and 8 of Born Again, Daredevil Born Again.
Mm-hmm.
One episode I think is the best of the Born Again so far, maybe. The other one I was not a huge fan of. I was not a huge fan of episode 7 anyway. So, um, let's start with episode 7. Obviously, this is episode 8 on the screen, but episode 7. What are your thoughts?
It was kind of stupid. Like, it wasn't the worst episode of this season yet, I don't think, but
Yeah, I think that's right.
it kind of annoyed me how they treated Muse. Like, the
Yeah,
whole therapy scene was just cringy, I thought. Like, there was nothing interesting about it, and then they just killed him like before he did anything interesting in the show.
yeah, that's kind of I was kind of disappointed in killing him off as well because like they kind of built him up to become like what I was assuming would be like the main villain of this particular season, and then we move more on to
Yeah.
Fisk in the next one. But then they just kind of got rid of him, which is used to further the plot, sure, but it's in a way that I think ruins some potential interesting stuff that could go on. The therapy scene was a little, it felt a little bit strange. I kind of joked that I felt as if like they're accidentally saying that therapy works differently for men and women.
Yeah.
In some way, but I don't know because I mean, but didn't Muse get revealed when he went to like Heather's like book signing thing or whatever? Like they actually
I
showed him
didn't
in that. I feel like I
yeah,
remember that.
I don't think they made the connection that like this is
No,
Muse,
no,
but
they didn't. But
that
it felt
that
like
character was there. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
he was there, and it felt. I mean, it didn't. I didn't really think too much of it at this because
Mhm.
obviously the main thing of the scene was a Fisk's new right hand man. I can't remember his name. What's his name?
Buck.
Buck. That's right, Buck doing that. But anyways, Heather's such an interesting character because, like, in a way, she's what ties everything together in the show. But it at times it feels as if like the stuff that she's in is a lot less interesting and kind of
Yeah.
drags on. And
She's
I feel
just like annoying.
hmm
Like I think you could maybe say that the first 3 seasons of Daredevil had kind of a subtle commentary on like mental health through Matt, right? Would you agree with that?
right.
So
I don't
now,
hate having the character of Heather in the show. I just feel like there's some ways that it's executed poorly. Or it feels kind of
yeah,
wedged in there, forced in there, trying to make her maybe more of a more significant character than she might actually
right.
be. I mean, she is in some ways the replacement for Karen in this season. I think Karen is a lot much more of an interesting character, and they shoehorned in
Mhm.
her into the first episode and kind of just said, yeah, she left, which I think is just like proof that of like the rewrites, the rework that they had to do with the show, where they kind of threw in Karen and Foggy into episode 1 for the bait,
Yeah.
or to like feel like a smoother transition from the Netflix series.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fair. She's just an annoying character. Like, I don't know. Karen was a great character. Like, the episode where they did Karen's backstory was like one of the honorable mention
Right.
episodes of season 3, I thought. It was like really good. And Heather is just annoying. Like she doesn't have any other character traits really.
Right. It doesn't feel like it's like her main character trait is that she is a therapist, which works for some parts of the story, sure, but I feel like at least like in some ways Karen might actually be more therapeutic to Matt because of the fact that Karen has basically related to doing bad things that you regret.
Karen actually had like a personality and like real struggles, and Heather's just like mental health we'll is good.
That with Heather, I don't know. We're at episode 8. We have 1 episode left of the season, which it feels kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
Which I don't know. Has this season felt faster paced for you? Because I feel like it's been a little faster paced, and you can kind of feel it.
Yeah, kind of. I think I would maybe say that like season 1 was just a little bit too slow paced for me. Like sometimes it felt like an episode didn't accomplish anything. But yeah, this season has been a little too quickly paced as well, I think. And somehow we still had a filler episode and we still haven't seen Matt in the suit hardly at all.
Yeah, that's true. And like I mean, like if you look at season 3, it does take a little bit to get going for Matt to get back to his Daredevil ways. But I feel like the character work they did within that was very interesting. So like again, I mean, there was obviously more going on in the show beyond that as well. But yeah, this show, like, I mean, obviously we know, I'm pretty sure it's confirmed that there will be season 2 of Born Again, which would be like season 5 of Daredevil.
Yep.
So obviously this is not going to resolve everything at this end, but I don't know how I really feel about that, but I don't know. It feels like I think the Muse situation is the best example of this, where they kind of build him up in a couple of scenes, and then next thing you know, they just kill him the next episode.
Right.
And like I feel like we could have had much more of a fleshed out storyline for him as a villain. That could have been a little bit more interesting, but instead they just use him to further set up Fisk's position in the story. Which I mean, I think Fisk is a great villain, one of the best one of the best on-screen superhero villains that I know of.
Yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, like that's season 1 and season 3. You deal with Fisk. And now next thing you know, it's Fisk again, except this time he's in the mayor, he's in the public eye instead of behind the scenes. That's the only difference, really.
And well, yeah, and Muse was such an interesting villain too, like both in kind of the Daredevil series and in like the whole superhero world. Like I like it when Marvel does a villain who's not like completely invulnerable and over the top powerful. Like one of my favorite Marvel movies is Captain America Civil War, just because the villain is just like a regular guy who's really determined and manages to accomplish a lot. And Muse is just kind of a regular guy. I mean, he's a psychopath, obviously, but he still makes for a really interesting villain.
He felt like he made much more of an impact behind the scenes versus when he was actually having screen time.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, it almost feels like they're probably just going to leave that in the dust for the rest of the story. Like, is his paintings, his murals going to turn up at all for the story again? Or is that just kind of a one and done thing just to build up Fisk and his task force?
I expect it's a one and done thing. And that's sad because like my favorite parts of the show, or some of my favorite parts of the show thus far, my favorite episode was like the Muse episode where Matt finally found and fought Muse.
Right. And then like he gets away, and then like the next confrontation, he dies. Not
yeah, exactly.
It felt so rushed. I feel like we could have gotten a lot more. Like if this was like I feel like you could fit like a Muse arc that's stronger in like a 13 episode season, just like the Netflix show had. That's the 13,
probably.
right? I think that's right. It is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Or you could do this thing called get rid of the useless filler episode in the bank and write in an additional episode that actually does something for the story.
Exactly.
And like
what you can do is you can take your other episode, and when everyone's complaining, oh, we haven't had Daredevil in a long time, suddenly boom, extra Daredevil episode. Everyone's happy because it's Daredevil and nothing happens. The end.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so curious to see, and like I'm pretty sure it's true that this is not performing well numbers wise on Disney Plus because it's Disney Plus. Not everyone has it. Not
Nothing
everybody
does well
wants
on
to get it.
Disney Plus anymore.
And obviously superhero shows, a lot of their shows from their major IPs that Disney has, Marvel, Star Wars, they have not performed. They've been performing worse and worse. Essentially, there might be like occasionally be one that breaks through that's actually well received both critically and commercially.
Yeah.
I guess like maybe Andor, which was slow to get started but had good word of mouth. Maybe that made it more successful, and now we have season 2. Meanwhile, Acolyte has bad critic reviews, bad audience reviews. And there's no more season 2.
And yet somehow it got more viewers in its first 5 days than Daredevil did.
Right. And I think that part of that's also just the fact that like people really, really love the Netflix Daredevil, and they've seen and like they saw Daredevil get just completely just like humiliated in She-Hulk. Even if they didn't watch She-Hulk, they saw the scenes, and then they're just like, okay, Disney doesn't understand this character. I don't want to watch this crap. And I think and as far as word of mouth has been for Born Again, like it hasn't been like downright awful, but like most people have been saying like, yeah, don't pay the subscription to see this. You don't really need to. Like there might be good parts here and there, but it's not really worth the money. And I think
my overall perception of the show is definitely positive, but like if you didn't have Disney Plus, I would not be telling you to buy Disney Plus to watch this show.
Right. And it's kind of sad how bad like Disney has messed up with a lot of this, that even when they make something half decent, it's not going to be successful. Like not anymore, and who knows, maybe we'll just get completely lost somewhere if like Disney Plus just caves in on itself. But
do we want to talk more about episode 8, because we kind of just complained about episode 7?
Okay, episode 8. Episode 7, not very great. Episode 8, I thought I really, really liked this episode, mostly because it felt like things actually happened within it. I feel like there was a lot more character work than like any other episode in this one episode, and they crammed so much into it. Stuff actually happened. And first of all, I want to say that I'm glad that Bullseye Poindexter is actually not just one and done. There's part of me that's just like, oh, they just got rid of him in episode 1. Like they got rid of Foggy and Karen out of the show. He's just there for the bait fan service, and then they move on from it. But he is back, which I think is good to have another another Daredevil villain. Because I mean Muse is dead, so might as well bring in the other psychopathic Daredevil villain.
Yeah.
So I'd say that I'm glad about that, and a lot of people pointed out the coloring, the blue and like the red, the blue for Bullseye, red for Daredevil. That color imagery I think was really well done, really interesting way to kind of showcase maybe a little bit more of the internal world of both of these characters.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. The coloring was very well done for sure.
Right. And I think it did a good job, at least making me excited for the finale at the end. Of course, left on a pretty good cliffhanger, and obviously you had the parallelism from Poindexter's line of like, what was it like? That's what good people do, right? Like, defend their worst enemy, and then at the end, Daredevil essentially sacrifices himself for Fisk, his worst enemy. And I think that's very interesting parallelism. Some people have been mentioning that.
Yeah, I didn't notice that when I watched the episode, but that's a really good point.
Yeah. I didn't really notice it until I saw people talking about it. I'm just gonna be honest
Mhm.
either. But of course, I'm glad that I learned about that because I think that's good writing, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, of course, what are they gonna do for the finale if Matt's half dead?
Yeah,
Um,
that's the question. I'm not sure.
like obviously, like we know there's next season. What's actually going to get done here? Is anything going to get done here? They're just gonna leave on a cliffhanger once again. I don't know. Is Punisher going to show up again, or was his only scene that one, my favorite scene in the show thus far, and was it
Mhm.
episode 4, I think, or 3,
That sounds right. 3 or 4.
3 or 4, something like that. Um, which I mean, I don't really need him in the show. It is a Daredevil show, so if Punisher's just there one and done, that's fine. That makes sense. But it's not like having a team up is kind of cool as well, especially because they do fight about their morality even in the midst of teaming up, which
Yeah.
I think is interesting.
And I'd like to have that be more than just like a cameo. Like actually give that scene more of a point in the show than just like, ooh, Punisher.
Right, right, yeah, and yeah, I'm very curious to see where they go forward with that. With Punisher. I've seen rumors that he is supposed to be in the finale, but I'm not 100% certain on that. I have no idea what the finale is going to be if Matt's half dead. If they're going to
Yeah.
instead like flash
We shall
forward in
see.
time. Yeah, we shall see. And I guess that means I'm actually excited for a release of something, which is not super
Yeah.
common um, nowadays. But yeah. What else do I want to say about this episode? Hmm.
I mean it
Why is the
good
sword guy
episode.
from Hawkeye in this show? He's in it for more of it. I think. I mean, yeah, it's a cool tie-in Easter egg, whatever. It just feels like really you're just gonna add this random side character no one really cared about. And okay, fine.
Oh,
Uh,
that's who that guy
yeah,
is.
yes.
I He didn't die in Hawkeye?
No, he didn't. He like joined the fight at the end
Huh.
or something, and then with his
Oh
sword,
yeah,
because the
yeah,
sword,
that's
he likes
right.
the swords.
I completely forgot about that guy. That makes so much sense now.
Everyone, remember how that show was the show that set up this show?
Yeah,
Remember when
unfortunately.
Kate Bishop beat up Wilson Fisk and beat Wilson Fisk in a
Yeah.
fight? Remember when
Like
Wilson Fisk was
that
actually
wasn't a
in the
bad
fight in a
show, but
one-on-one
that was
fight? No,
stupid.
I think the show gets a lot more hate than it deserves, but there are things that I just don't like, and especially has to do with their handling of Fisk.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's kind of the
And
main thing. And
it set
us,
up Echo too.
oh yeah, that show nobody watched. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
I watched
yeah,
the first
great.
30 seconds of the first episode.
Right, they have to mention it even though nobody watched it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't really want to get. I kind of want to talk a little bit because I feel Haka gets so much hate. Because I mean, some people are just like it's a bait and switch, which it kind of is. But like at least in Clint's position, like he is in a position where he wants to retire and be with his family, which I think is consistent for his character. So it's not like they're butchering the
Mhm.
character in the bait and switch way.
Right.
Um, uh, like, um, and I think Kate Bishop's like not the worst character in the world.
No, not at
Um,
all.
though we haven't seen her since Hawkeye. Who knows at this point? I liked how it was a Christmas time-ish show, and that was kind of looped into it, which I think is nice.
Sure.
What else? Yelena is in the show.
Yeah, I mean it
Great.
was like a very unoffensive, decent show. There was
Hmm.
nothing like horrifically wrong with it. I mean, I have
No.
some minor complaints, but it was fun to watch, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. It was. Anyway, let's get back to this. I don't want to talk about that show. It's also been a hot second since I've watched it, so yeah.
Yeah, it's been a couple years.
Is there anything else we have to say about episode 8?
I don't think so. We should probably move on to the next
Okay.
topic. We've talked about Daredevil a long time.
Topic. Oh, great. The next thing we get to talk about is the Minecraft movie.
I think we watched the trailer for this when it came out on the show, didn't we?
Did we?
We talked about it at least.
About it at least, yeah. So the Minecraft movie's out, and this has been happening. I effectively got dragged into seeing the movie. It was everything that I expected and worse. The movie is awful. Every character is pretty annoying in the movie. And the audience was exactly what everybody has said the audience is. All the 9-year-olds and all the 16-year-olds doing it for the memes basically cheered at every meme line, went crazy. Thankfully, my theater, there wasn't people throwing stuff around or anything like that. So it wasn't completely disruptive. It was quite an experience. What I will say is that it wasn't so bad because the movie was awful, so it was a bit of a distraction at times. But yeah, gosh, my biggest issue with this movie is the fact that this movie is going to be the one that makes $1 billion. Meanwhile,
yeah, that's stupid.
Other movies, kids movies that are actually good, like The Wild Robot, like Transformers 1, these movies that just keep completely flopping or relatively flopping in the box office that are actually good. But of course, the meme movie is the one that's going to be successful. What are studios going to do with this information? Well, they're just going to start making brain rot meme movies in order to make a financial success.
Yeah, that's.
And I can't even blame them either, which is the sad part. Like kids haven't been going to movies because nobody's been going to movies, but especially young kids, like they need a reason to actually get into the movies. And of course, the memes from the most popular video game on Earth at the moment, I'm pretty sure that is the case. As far as like raw numbers go.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to get kids into the movies. And so we're just gonna get more and more of this crap. I've noticed the trend of some kids movies, the bright colors, the cringe dialogue, weirdly fast pacing, nothing really lack of significant character work or lessons learned. I also felt this to a lesser extent during Kung Fu Panda 4, which is an abomination to the franchise, just because it was just bad. It was inconsistent.
Yeah.
But even within that, I kind of just felt like, wow, there's just a lot of colors, a lot of happening in short amount of time, which of course, yes, it's true that the younger generations have what's the word? Short attention spans. So obviously to get them to watch an hour and a half movie, you're going to have to do something to keep their attention, I guess. Which might, and that's what kids movies are going to be now, I fear. Gosh, it's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. Like I haven't seen this movie, and hopefully I never will. I mean, just looking at this scene, it looks like an abomination. Yeah, and the fact that this is.
Go ahead.
Like you said, the fact that this is going to be the movie that makes a lot of money is just sad, because the movies that are popular aren't even art anymore. There was a time when the big movies were artistically interesting. They had interesting ideas. There was a lot of thought and intention put into the cinematography. And now it's just popular brand with meme dialogue, make much money.
Right. Yeah. I should note that it is true that a lot of the best movies of all time, these critically acclaimed films, performed poorly. So I think that raw cinematic masterpiece talent alone is not necessarily enough to get people into the theater.
Right.
Which is, I think, part of the issue. That's why I think that especially it seems that like even with like movie posters, they seem to be advertising the stars, the celebrities in their movie more so than the actual movie, which I think could be part of it. Try to draw people in with the famous faces because like they don't really care what the premise of the film is, and of course, what was I going to say? I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Whatever. It yeah, I don't like it. Theaters have been struggling, and that's true. I think that what they needed, what they have been doing is, I think, starting to work a little bit, which is just doing re-releases or exclusive events. My local theater is doing a Lord of the Rings marathon in a couple
Ooh,
weekends.
fun. Are you going to
An
go
all-day
to it?
one, and if I didn't have a Rubik's Cube competition that day, then I would be
Gotcha.
going to that. I'm still a little bit tempted to just not, but that's besides the point. And like we have Revenge of the Sith re-release is later this month, which I expect to be a fairly popular. Maybe not Lord of the Rings popular. It's hard to say.
There's a
I
lot
don't
of
think
people though who really love Revenge of the Sith. I think that'll
right.
be popular.
Because like, I mean, like when we had went to Interstellar, Interstellar is a lot less popular than Revenge of the Sith, I would say, and that was a pretty packed theater. So I'd assume something similar for
Yeah, that was full.
ROS. But and I mean, I like that. I like having re-releases. Maybe the occasional, like one of my favorite movies is available to see on the big screen. That might actually be a little bit more intriguing than seeing new Marvel slop in theaters and paying $20 to see that when I can pay $20 to see a movie I actually like in a actual theater environment.
And I mean, you can't do the re-release like all the time, or it just becomes like old again. But how long has it been since Revenge of the Sith? It's been like 20 years,
20
right?
years, yeah.
Yeah, that's like a perfectly
Like,
acceptable re-release.
Right.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
the thing is that like there's movies basically every year where it's it's their 10th anniversary, their 20th anniversary, that you could do something for that for. You could almost have like a constant stream of movies with that.
Right.
Or just like marathons. Like I know my local theater, I think for the past couple of years, has had Harry Potter marathons that go throughout a couple of days. They show like one of the movies every night or something like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Which is like another like there's strategies that they're trying to implement, but I just I don't really know how successful or theater business is actually doomed to die no matter what they do, which would be unfortunate.
Yep.
And like nowadays, like TVs are getting massive and cheaper as well, which is of course an issue as well. If your home theater has a big enough screen and like you pay for like surround sound, like at that point you're going to be able to get pretty close to recreating the experience, or at least giving a smaller comparison of it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just I'm going off track now. Yeah, I mean the only other time that a theater was as crazy as the Minecraft movie was Endgame. Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, and that was,
and even that was not this crazy because it was genuine crowd like fandom, not just internet funny meme laugh be just a complete annoying nuisance. Oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, like that's kind of like might just be the difference of audiences, the kids and the meme lords versus like your older teenagers, young adults.
I mean, I'm sure that's part of it, but still, like, parents are taking their kids to see the Minecraft movie, you know?
Right. Right. Anyways, I don't know. Yeah, studios are gonna learn some unhelpful lessons with this. I think expect more slop like this. And like,
Yeah,
I
I
mean, like
think right,
the video
unfortunately.
game movies are becoming more prevalent, and I think that like you look at the Mario movie, which is also not a great movie, but like at least like, and I mean, I didn't feel, and I saw it in theaters, and I can't remember if it was full or not. I think it was like half full or something like that. So like not bad, but like it was a fairly respectful screening. Well, I mean, obviously the audience for Mario is going to be a lot more older people because Mario is much more of a legacy character than like Minecraft,
Yeah.
which is very much popular with the younger kids of this generation. So there may be something to say about that, but now we have like the Zelda movie is I think in production. Hooray! The Sonic movies are actually like half decent. I kind of hate to admit it, but
Really?
they're actually half decent.
I did not
I
realize that.
The third one especially is actually kind of good, which is kind of surprising, and I think that shows that like you can actually put enough care to make something half decent. That is a video game adaptation.
Yeah.
But alas, we have Jack Black meme movie, and this is what the result of that is. And I'm kind of just sick of Jack Black. He plays himself in everything, and sometimes it can work, but
Yeah.
I feel like he was just a complete like miscast here.
Yeah, I
Although,
agree.
well,
That
at the same
casting
time,
choice
maybe
is-
it's not even a miscast, depending on what their goal was. If this was their goal, then they definitely achieved it.
Well, yeah, true. And that very well could have been what they were trying to do.
Right. Yeah, look at this. Like,
Oh,
this is
that's
like,
ridiculous.
geez, like they're throwing popcorn, they're throwing everything, they're just making a complete mess. Kids having fun in theater. I mean, here's like, it's fine if you want to have fun in theater, but like some people go to the theater to like watch a movie. Now, like obviously, kids movie, okay, fine. If there's rowdy kids, like what are you gonna do about it? But like this would not be acceptable behavior in like any other movie, like even like maybe family
No,
movies. Like I would
this
say like
just this isn't acceptable behavior, period. Like, this is
right.
stupid. If you go to the movie theater, you sit in your seat and you watch the movie politely,
Mm-hmm.
and then you leave and you
Right.
don't leave a big mess. Like, this is
Right.
just basic.
Like it's like the thing theaters have always just said is like, oh, don't be on your phone, no texting, no calling during the movie. It's almost like they have to add to that now. Like that's the bare minimum.
Right. And if you look at like the clip above of Chicken Jockey, during the scene, everyone has their phone out filming the scene.
Right. It's like and I can't really like, I mean, like this movie's not made for me, fair enough. But like this, like if I was a parent, I would not want my kid doing this crap. Like I don't really care if they want to cheer or whatever, fine. But like if you're gonna be making a mess, then honestly, I'll make you clean it up. Like
Yeah, exactly.
it and like it. Like if you like the only argument for this is this one, like kids having just it's just kids having fun, and like I mean yeah that's true, but like you got to think like kids should at least know basic enough respect to be able to like be in a theater respectfully. Like I mean I'm assuming like most of these kids doing this, if they were in like any other movie, they'd have no issues at all. They just act relatively normal, and so like that's kind of where I'm just like okay, like whatever, this just happens. I guess the only other one that's close is Rise of Gru, Minions Rise of Gru, where that one was overtaken by the older teenage boys who wore their full suits to the movie and threw bananas at the screen. That's the only other example of that happening, and obviously that was, I think, a lot worse just because it was teenagers that should know better intentionally disrupting the theater experience.
I think the having fun, the argument is stupid. Like, you can have fun without throwing your food around and being an idiot.
Yeah, right. It just like, I mean, like, yeah, they're kids. They're not really going to care that the teenage worker has to go around to every seat and clean this crap up. Like, they don't really like, I don't think a lot of them consciously think, oh shoot, someone actually has to do their job here.
Yeah.
At least like for me, I've worked fast food for 5 years. I hate when I'm inconvenienced by guests being intentionally messy, especially. because like it's not hard to clean up after yourself a little bit. And so at least for me, like I would take the side of the worker a little bit more than the audience in this particular case. Although that's just me personally.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, like, yeah, it's their job to clean up, but like if like some of it's just typical human decency. Like, don't do this crap. And I mean, like, yeah, sure, you might accidentally spill something. I know I've spilled nachos on myself before at a movie theater, but like that's an accidental mess. This is just intentional memeing. It feels like this is like the entire row is a mess, and like at least it looks like they left their stuff there as well. That's what I would have the biggest issue with, is that they left their stuff here. At least to me, it's common theater knowledge that you bring your stuff out and throw them in the massive trash cans that are what's this, right next to the exit, as if you're supposed to do that. But yeah, this is wild. I don't know.
Anyway, let's move.
I'm a little conflicted about stuff. Anyways, we're at 36 minutes. Okay, we're gonna go to a different, slightly different topic. We're still talking movies, but this one's a little bit different. We want to talk about again, what do you like? What do you got? The history of / the current situation of Christian entertainment. Just to get a little bit more. What do you want to call it? Culture war-y?
Sure, yeah.
A little bit more relevant, maybe to the content of my channel. I don't know. But yeah. So this is a tweet about asking why it's so hard to find actual good Christian shows and movies. And I think personally, this is kind of a bad take. I think it's not hard to find. It's just that you're looking in the wrong place. First of all, it's true that a lot of Christian entertainment is just not good just by entertainment standards. Mm-hmm. And there's a few reasons that we discussed beforehand for why that could be. One, lack of funding. Obviously, Hollywood, not exactly super cool with the whole Christianity thing. That's why every Christian movie has a low Rotten Tomatoes score as well. Yeah. Despite audience scores usually in like the high 90% for any Christian film. That's the same thing. So like there's lack of funding until like recently we have like Angel Studios with like The Chosen, which is crowd-funded, but it's still like a little bit more funding, or at least more care, or a larger team working on specific products. That's why I think at least in the past few years, we've seen an increase in the actual quality of the Christian entertainment.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
But of course, there's also the point of, well, what about Christian movies that aren't explicitly Christian? Because like it doesn't necessarily have to preach the gospel at the end and be super preachy to count as a Christian film.
Mm-hmm.
And like even this person down here, I mean, he says a swear word, so yeah, Prince of Egypt. Constantine's not a Christian movie.
Yeah, kind of. But
it does have religious themes in it. But at least from what I've heard of it, it doesn't sound like they're genuinely trying to showcase Christianity in a.
I tried watching it. It's like I'll probably finish it at some point, but it was one of those movies that's just like, look, demons, and I was like, okay, whatever.
Right. This is another take as well. Is that, that's Christian media. They know that there's a good chunk of Christians that will just consume it anyways because it happens to have the Christian label attached to it. Like, for example, God's Not Dead. I do not like the movie God's Not Dead.
It's a poorly made movie. I agree.
It's a poorly made movie. From an entertainment standpoint, strictly, it's a bad movie. It's very, very preachy. It straw man's atheism. It's just not exactly a good look for basically anybody involved with it, I think. But of course, you're going to have your Christian homeschool moms are going to be like, oh, Christian film. Oh, this teaches a good message. And I mean, sure, if you want to argue that, oh, it preaches the gospel. Good. That must mean good. And then they'll watch it. And I mean, like, okay, sure, it's not like insultingly bad. Like, oh, shoot. Oh, how dare you watch this awful movie. But like, but like, at least for me, I recognize a lot of problems, which is why I'd say there's significantly better options.
I think a lot of the reason these Christian movies do well is because of like the Christian parents, probably, who want their kids to like watch like Christian movies or whatever. And honestly, what they want is like this preachy stuff.
Right.
They're generally not too concerned with like
because
the
like it's like
artfulness of the movie.
It's like they think that like any movie that whose message isn't the gospel, like it doesn't really matter, even if it's a generally like positive message, such as like the power of friendship or whatever, and like then like it's a bad, like not everything needs to just be explicitly Christian. I mean, look at Lord of the Rings, written by a devout Catholic man. And I mean, Tolkien generally does not like allegory, so I think that Lord of the Rings, but at the same time, Lord of the Rings still is infused with this overarching idea of good versus evil. And if you actually look into a lot of the spiritual aspects of Tolkien's world, it actually doesn't stray too far from the biblical version.
Yeah, exactly. I've been really annoyed recently by this whole idea that like if the gospel isn't explicitly preached in any and everything that we as Christians are involved in, then it's bad. Like that's a stupid perspective, and I think that it exists implicitly or explicitly in a lot of media, which is
also,
annoying.
like I'm gonna say, if something's overly preachy, guess what that's gonna do? It's gonna turn people away from watching it. People that might be on the fence about it, because being overly preachy is not something anybody likes.
No, not at all.
And like just because it comes off oftentimes as like self-righteousness or holier than thou attitude, or it just has to do with people don't want to accept the reality of their sin and that's like need of a savior. But it being preachy is not typically a winning strategy. While like you could look at something like, I don't know, Prince of Egypt. Prince of Egypt's a phenomenal movie. Everybody, regardless of religious viewpoint, agrees it's a phenomenal movie. Well, if they really like the movie, perhaps they'll become curious about the actual biblical story, biblical counterpart.
Right.
And then maybe that leads them to Christ eventually. You never know. Could sow a seed.
It's not a preachy movie either.
No,
like it just takes the biblical story, it presents it as it is, and then you as the audience can take it or leave it. And I think that's a good way to tell a story in a movie.
Yeah, like even like the spiritual aspects of that movie aren't just like, oh yeah, this is actually real, by the way. They're just like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you believe this is a true story or not. This is just how the story is written. Even obviously they took some creative liberties, so it's not like one-to-one accurate to the biblical version. But
it also doesn't in the least disrespect it. It's a well-made movie that represents its source material well, which is great.
Right. What's like another example? Passion of the Christ. It's an R-rated movie, but it's incredibly intense, and I feel like there's also a lot of power in this particular film for a lot of people. That especially if they're new to who Jesus is, this movie would probably open their eyes in a lot of ways.
I admittedly have not seen Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, it's very intense, but it's pretty good. It's very good. Supposedly they're making part 2 to it, which would be they probably were just like, oh well, we could, well, because the Passion of the Christ basically ends with him getting resurrected, Jesus getting resurrected. That's like the end of the movie. So like there's still some biblical narrative to talk about afterwards. I don't know. Maybe they just saw like the Chosen's being really successful. We can probably push out something out as well that's pretty good. I don't know. But that's maybe a little bit more intense, more directed towards adult audiences and not sugarcoat scripture.
So is it going to be like Paul's missionary journeys or what?
I have no idea.
Okay, just don't turn it into a franchise, please. Like, if you want to make a good biblical movie, then by all means, please do. But, like, come on.
Yeah, supposedly, it's out in 2026. I don't know if this is, or this might just be a concept. Mel Gibson's released in 2025. It might be delayed or it might have been canceled. I don't really know.
Well, April 18th, 2025. So I think it's
Let's say
probably been delayed.
2026 here. Resurrection
Yeah.
of the Christ. Described as sequel to Passion of the Christ. Yeah, so it seems like it's happening. Whether or not it will happen in 2026, like it says, or not, is I guess up for debate. But anyways, yeah, I think, I mean, like, obviously, another challenge with this, though, is that basically every time you make a Christian film, you're going to have your obsessive Theo bros on the internet tearing it to shreds.
Yeah.
This is not biblical. This is bad. Or you'll have your iconoclasts that are just like, this is idolatry to have an actor play Jesus.
Right.
And that's another part of the challenge is, I mean, especially
You're
when you
not
have
going to
figures.
please all the Christians if
Right,
you're
right.
making like a genuinely theologically relevant movie.
Right. Which that's a fun world to dive into. It feels like every day there a new Christian creator explains why they don't like The Chosen or all the inaccuracies in The Chosen.
Yeah.
And like, meanwhile, I'm just like, okay, yeah, there might be inaccuracies, but for the most part, it's being fairly faithful, especially to the character of Jesus, I think. But and like, sure, they're going to take creative liberties, but they're putting the actual message out there. And like, even the creators just like, yeah, we're not trying to recreate scripture, which is, I know, a concern some Christians have thrown out there.
Right.
I mean, there was even like a whole thing where a pride flag was spotted on set because they hire independent like contractors working for the film.
Yeah, that was stupid.
That was interesting. There was a whole week where like one line in the trailer sounded a little too Mormon, so everyone had to talk about how The Chosen is Mormon and therefore it's bad.
Yep.
Like, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah, it's like, to make a Christian movie that's not going to offend anyone, you have to make it so, you have to like dumb it down so much and so boil down any actually emotionally impactful message that it just becomes a bad movie.
Right, and at that point, it might just become that overly preachy, poorly produced film meant to please Christians and Christians only.
Yep,
and
exactly.
that still would not please all Christians. So you kind of have to pick or choose kind of what like you want to go for. Recognize that no matter what you do, there's going to be people trying to fight it, because of course there is. The whole like iconography debate is kind of a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else about this particular topic?
To draw this back to Daredevil a little bit, I like that they do genuinely in Daredevil represent Matt as a Christian. And granted, Matt is not living a Christian lifestyle in that show. They don't represent Catholicism all that faithfully to what Catholicism actually would teach, as I understand it. And yet it's still very explicitly in the show, and I think that's a good thing.
Right. I do like that. And I think the whole point is that like Matt seems to have relatively left the faith, but it's still, the morals of it still impact him. Like, it kind of reminds me of like, there's a lot of individuals on the internet who grew up Catholic or grew up religious who since have left the faith but are still relatively in line with those morals, those values. And at least for me, I think the Catholic aspect of Matt's character is one of the most fascinating parts, at least for me, because I mean, like, how many mainstream superheroes have a Christian background or are tied to Christianity in any way. You don't really see that.
Yeah, exactly.
And in Born Again, I know there was some people were mentioning how Born Again lacks the religious themes, and it definitely certainly does. But like even then, there's still a couple moments where like there showcases that like there's still that faith in the background of Matt's character.
Yeah,
like the time he was praying. And
I love that scene. That scene was
a
great.
good scene. Yeah. And I'm honestly kind of surprised he even had that scene in Born Again, to be honest. It seems that generally mainstream entertainment does not like to have Christian themes or even just religious themes in general, unless it's like relevant for like historical accuracy or something. And then when they do, you make something like Conclave, which is...
do you want to talk about Conclave? That's kind of an interesting movie.
I haven't watched it, but...
Do you want me to spoil the whole movie for you?
Sure, I don't care. Go ahead.
Okay, so I honestly think Conclave was a really well-made movie until the end twist. So it's about like selecting a new pope after the previous one died, and this is a fictional movie. So it's basically kind of just like a political drama movie. All the cardinals are gathered in the Vatican, and there's like intrigue and stuff, and there's themes of like faith and prayer and sin and morality and all that kind of thing. So it's a really interesting movie until at the last second it turns into like gender commentary because the cardinal they accept as a pope is a I'm going to forget the term for it now. He was born with both male and female sexual organs.
What's the word for that? I forget it.
I don't know. I always forget that word.
Hermaphrodite?
Yes, that's it. And okay. So at the like it was just completely uncalled for. The entire rest of the movie was not building to that conclusion. And then at the end of it, they're like, yeah, the new pope is like a hermaphrodite because gender is a spectrum or something. And yeah, it was just a very disappointing ending to an otherwise very well-made movie.
Yeah, I feel like I heard controversy surrounding that. And it feels like, well, I think the problem is that a lot of secular individuals don't actually understand the teachings of Christianity. I feel like they either think of like the hippie Jesus perspective, or their experiences with your fundamentalist, over the top, turn or burn Christians. And so it oftentimes might just come as some mix of that. And I mean, like,
that's
Conclave, I mean, it seems to be pretty well received critically from just like a entertainment standpoint, film
absolutely
standpoint.
It was, yes.
Yeah. Which I'm assuming that means they at least took some care into the faith, but it seems that kind of, like you mentioned, turned around towards the end.
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely themes of like faith and Christianity in the movie, like without a doubt. But yeah, I don't know, just really uncalled for ending.
This is an interesting take here. This one, comparing basically Christian film to woke entertainment, prioritizing the message, and then making the entertainment sort of secondary or built around that message, which I think is kind of a good way to describe kind of the issue. Just like this whole thing where, like, instead of crafting a film to get the message across, you craft the message and build a film. Just kind of that thought process is going to be like, it's not going to lead typically to the best film, which obviously the better the film, in theory, the more successful it will be at achieving its mission, whether that's purely entertainment or for some other value sort of thing.
I agree with the first two sentences of the take, and the rest of it makes me annoyed. But yeah.
How so?
So obviously you want to impart value, but the main point of media, that's stupid. Entertainment and media are like some of those buzzwords today. If the main point of
Mhm.
media is to entertain, then I would wholeheartedly reject media. I would boycott it. I don't
Right.
believe that is what the main point of media is. I believe it is to glorify God, as is the purpose of all things.
Right.
And that involves making something entertaining, but before that, it involves making something of transcendent beauty and truth.
Sure. I think that's fair. And this, I mean, there's 13 comments. What we got? No, it's just they're poorly written. I don't know. If you need the Bible to have guidance on what morals should be, then that's a problem. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't necessarily need the Bible to know what morals are. It's just that you're taking a complete chance and lacking that actual guiding. So you actually don't have a clue if what you're doing is correct. I guess is kind of what I'm thinking.
True.
I don't know. See, Lord of the Rings, like, yes, it was written by a devout Christian man, but like, I don't really consider it to be that much of a Christian film, other than like the underlying themes, sure, but
And you know what?
like,
That's a good thing.
and that's a good thing. that's a good. Obviously, like, I'm pretty sure Tolkien was pretty famously, what's the word I'm thinking of? Disliking of C.S. Lewis's Narnia because of how closely allegorical the Narnia story is to the Bible.
I think it's a little bit overblown today how much he disliked it, but he definitely had critiques of that and the Screw Tape Letters.
Yeah, and I mean, like, obviously, a part of that's also the fact that C.S. Lewis is not Catholic; he was Anglican.
Yeah.
Yes. So obviously, that's like even today you'll see divisions in that sort of sense. So, but yeah. Anyways, we're almost at an hour.
Yeah, we added a couple topics onto the end there, kind of, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I think that's good for this episode. See you hopefully next week for the next one. We hope to do a theology focused
Easter,
episode.
so I kind of doubt I'll be
That's
able
a good
to
point.
do.
Probably not next week then. Maybe I'll do a solo show, but
we could try for like Monday night.
Monday night, that could work.
Or we should probably discuss our scheduling, not in the show.
Not in the show. Anyways, all right. Thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, we'll see you in episode 16, hopefully.